turning up the heat, calling for its CEO's exit right now. Bottom line, we are seeing little forgiveness for America's top brass. For investors, is the scrutiny and turnover at the top good for long-term returns? CT Partners' Umesh Ramakrishnan is with us, saying the heat on these CEOs is now becoming ridiculous. Attorney Andrew Stoltmann says these CEOs do not get a free pass. Good to have you both on the program. Thanks for joining us. Andrew, let me kick this off with you. You say forgiveness is not something that we should have for CEOs. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's real simple. The lowest level employees don't get a second chance, neither should the CEO. The legal liability if a CEO screws up a second time is simply too great. So there should be no reason why a CEO should get a free pass.
Is it a free pass, Umesh? Why are we giving free passes?
Well, look, if a CEO is fired because of illegal activity or unethical behavior, that's fine. But if it's done because of some other performance issues, then that should be viewed along with his or her overall performance. So I don't think that it's simply because the CEO is fired, that has an impact on the investor that is being ignored by most of the folks that are doing this right now. So I don't think they get a free pass.
Look, you said it's ridiculous at this point. What do you mean by ridiculous?
Well, because in today's world, because of social pressure, the social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc., a lot of people put a lot of social pressure on the board, and public sentiment is beginning to drive board opinion. And as a result, they're short-sighted in their decision-making. And if you look at what happened at BP, sure, I'm not minimizing what happened with the explosion, but when Tony was the CEO, the stock was at $60, and now 2 years later, it hasn't crossed 50 yet. So you have to keep investors and stakeholders in mind when you do this.
Andrew, what are you shaking your head about?
Well, look, I'm sorry, but with outsized pay comes outsized expectations, and you are a fiduciary to the shareholders. And if you screw up, be it on the personal side or even on the business side, you got to go. You got to bring somebody else in who can do the job.
It's becoming unforgiving for anybody to make even a simple mistake these days, Maria, and that is unfair regardless of pay.
Don't become a CEO. It's real simple. Stay at the lower levels. But if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Well, even go ahead,
yeah,
Maria.
go ahead. No, you go ahead, you must.
No, it's not the question about staying out of the kitchen because of the heat. It's because somebody makes a mistake in your organization. You still need a leader who has oversight. And his personal issues should not be reflected in the performance of him or her as an executive.
Yeah, but Maria,
go ahead.
Maria, you look at it this way. I mean, if you're talking about a low-level, clerk, if you will, at a company like Best Buy, if they screw up by leaving money on the counter, they're going to be fired immediately. And what I can't figure out, what I can't fathom, is why the standard would be different if you're talking about a CEO. The same standard should apply.
How did Jamie Dimon handle this, you think, Andrew?
I think he has put on a very good PR front, and he has effectively gotten rid of some of the people who needed to get rid of. But I still think that the board should, quite frankly, force him out, because ultimately the buck kind of stops with him, and it's his responsibility for what the underlying people do. And if he can't stand that, if he can't grasp that, I think he has to go.
So you think he should go?
Yes, I do.
Maria, this is exactly the kind of statement that I meant when I said it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's almost just a handful of people that can replace Jamie Dimon. Was that an egregious error? Yes. But do not get rid of one of the best CEOs you have who can run such a large financial institution. This is where it gets ridiculous.
But you have now been subjected to regulatory liability. You will likely be subjected to the class action, lawyers coming out of the woodwork to sue the company. And if there is another screw up, the impact could be cataclysmic. So I'm sorry, but that's the deal when you become a CEO.
Unfortunately, that's the deal today. It has to change.
Well, that's why, which is why I think he moved very quickly to say, look, this was stupidity, and suggested heads would roll, and a day later, heads rolled.
Yeah, but Maria, look at what UBS did when they had their $2.3 billion trading scandal. The board basically forced the CEO out pretty darn quickly, and it'll be curious to see whether the JPMorgan board will do the same.
The investors will be in trouble if they do the same.
Do you think investors will be in trouble if Jamie Dimon is forced out?
Absolutely. There are hardly a handful of people, Maria, that can do this job. And this is the problem with where we are today in the social media and lawyers attacking executives for issues that are not pertaining to the longevity of a CEO. Well, he's a good CEO, he should stay.
And I would be very surprised to see the board move in that direction, actually.
I would agree.
But I guess,
Gentlemen.
Maria, post 2008, I really think we are in a whole new environment, especially when it comes to Wall Street CEOs. I know Jamie Dimon helped steer JP Morgan away from the mess that almost sank so many other firms and did sink some of those firms.